Are you ready, Jason?
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Catherine. Good evening. Good evening. Great. You're all awake then. So my name is Catherine. I'm here this evening to give a short talk, which is to give you information about how you can research your own family histories. Now, I researched my family history, as you can see, and you'll be amazed if you look on slide 1, on my first point, you will see that I've been able to trace my family history to several continents around the world. And I was able to do this, if you look on slide 2, by my, or just imagine looking at slide 2, by my blood type. And this all arose when I had an accident. So something good came out of this accident because I had to be given a blood transfusion. And the doctors had difficulty in tracing my specific type of blood, and also some skin grafts and other things. I don't want to give you too much personal detail. But what it meant was that they had to find out a little bit more about my genetic heritage. And I always just thought, oh, you know, my mum and dad, as we all think. So I asked my mum, what's going on? And there wasn't any family secrets. It just shows you, as you can see from slide 3, that we all come from a diaspora around the world. Most of us have many different genetic heritages which make up our biology. And a way you can do this is to use the parish records. So I used some parish records from the 1700th century, which were kept in St George's in the Fields, which was part of a parish which is near Wapping. And you can also use other sources if you want to trace your family heritage. You can use the census, you can use workhouse records, you can use birth records from the birth registration, you can use marriage records, you can also check your heritage and your ancestors from death certificates. You can also check via the, great to see you're taking some notes over there. You can also check at the national museums, like the Museum of London. And I contributed to, you'll see a museum called the Museum of London Docklands, where I was one of the advisors to a exhibition which is there, a permanent exhibition called London Sugar and Slavery. And this particular exhibition at the Museum of London Docklands, it traces the sugarcane route and the ancestors of people from Africa and the Caribbean. And if you go along to this museum, it's not very far from here, it's in West India Quay, which is just at the back of Canary Wharf. You just walk over the bridge. And you go into the second floor, you'll see the permanent exhibition which I contributed to, and you'll see the triangle between Africa, the Caribbean and Britain, and how some people's ancestors were taken from Africa to the Caribbean, and then obviously that's why we have a lot of different genetic heritages. So that's an interesting exhibition, and there's lots of family names there. There's maps there of different islands, and also the links with the Middle East, with certain islands, because many people went from Syria, Lebanon, and other parts of the Middle East when there was persecution for religious persecution. They moved to the Caribbean. Some moved to build the Suez Canal, and so on, for labour. So these are ways you can check your genetic heritage by researching, by looking at, as I said, death records, marriage certificates, birth certificates, the parish records, even adoption certificates. And another great one, just to finish off, because we're in the East End of London, is Barnardo's. Barnardo's was run by Dr. Barnardo, and the very first place it was set up was in Ben Jonson Road, which is near Stepney. And they had a lot of birth records of exactly the people who were adopted from families all over the world. He used to help poorer people and children who were children of the workhouse and so on. So if you have a link to the East End, Dr. Barnardo's is also a very good way to research your family history. Thank you.
We have to have like a few questions at the end, I suppose. You have to have this one. So I'll ask the first one, and then we'll open up for questions. Okay. You mentioned the word diaspora. Could you please explain briefly just what that word means? Can you elaborate? Just so.
The diaspora is people who have migrated from other countries, and they may be living in the West, like in Europe, but they actually form part of a wider diaspora of people from across the world. So we have obviously in Europe a lot of people of African descent, a lot of people of Asian descent, and they're part of the diaspora of Africa and Asia, or they could be, from different part of Europe, Eastern Europe, like the Balkans, for example, Serbia or Croatia or Romania, but then they're in this part of Europe.
One more question for me, and then we'll have to. Could you just tell us briefly, what is the attraction of doing your own research? What's the thrill of it?
The thrill of it is that you discover very interesting things about yourself. Not only did I discover, obviously, things which could help me to make sure that I kept my health, because I discovered this through to being unwell and having to have medical treatment. But you also discover things about your ancestors, their professions, the work they did, the contributions they made to society. You also discover, things about your great-great-great-grandparents, your great-great-great-grandmother, the sort of things she used to get up to. And so it's really interesting because you find things about yourself which you notice in yourself, which you realise, oh, maybe that's where it all came from.
Thank you very much. Questions, please?
Have you ever thought about doing an ethnicity DNA test from 23andMe? An ethnicity DNA test from 23andMe. Have you ever thought about doing it as part of your research?
I have undertaken that, yes.
Oh, you've
it's
done
part
it?
of my research. Once they did the bloods and the tests.
Did anything come back specifically in regards to any genes that you found?
Yes, many different, at least 3 continents of the world, which surprised me because I didn't know that